Hello everyone, I cordially welcome you all to another video from the React tutorial series, and in this video we are going to discuss on events in React. So without any delay, let's get started. So what are events? In general, events are actions that are invoked when some activity occurs in the component. For example, mouse click, window resize, keyboard key press, or any server sent events. Like HTML, React also has its own methodology of handling events on DOM elements. This event handling mechanism provided by React is called synthetic events. The synthetic events is basically a cross-browser wrapper around the browser's native event. It shares the same interface with that of the browser's native event, including the stopPropagation and the preventDefault methods. So this is one of the very important question in React interviews where they ask what are events in React, and if you can answer them, they ask you what are synthetic events. So if you are ever asked what are synthetic events in React, just say this event handling mechanism provided by React is called synthetic events. The synthetic event is basically a cross-browser wrapper around the browser's native event. It shares the same interface with that of the browser's native event, including the stopPropagation method and the preventDefault method. Okay. Now let's discuss how synthetic events and browser's native events are different. So as already discussed, synthetic events is basically a cross-browser wrapper around the browser's native event. It shares the same interface with that of the browser's native event, which includes the stopPropagation method and the preventDefault method. There are majorly few key differences between the React synthetic events and browser's native event. They are as follows. Events in React are named using camel case instead of lowercase like HTML. In React JSX, a function is passed as the event handler, unlike a string in HTML. In React synthetic event, we can't return false to prevent the default behavior. We have to call the preventDefault method in event explicitly to prevent the default behavior. Okay? So now let's go back to the code base and see an example. If you can see on my screen, here I have created a folder known as events, and within this events folder, we created two components, one class component and another function component. The event CC is basically the class component and event FC is basically the function component. The aim of these two components is to familiarize you with how we can write events and handle events in React both using class components and function components. So let's begin with the function components as they are more popular. So in case of function components, as I have already said, function components are basically simple functions in JavaScript. So here I have written a function known as greetFC, and here I have a event handler named as handleButtonPress. It accepts an event, and this event should be of type React mouse event. Okay, and that should be triggered from a button element. Here when the event is triggered, first of all I handle the default behavior of the event using the event.preventDefault method. Thereafter I show an alert message on the screen, welcome from tutorials in hand. Okay, basically I greet the user. Within the return, we return the JSX code which I have already explained many a times. So within the return we have an h2 tag where we say press the button to be greeted. And thereafter we have a button element. On click, we are calling this handleButtonPress, this method. And here in the button we write greet me. Finally, I have imported this greetFC component in our main app.tsx and have bind it here. So basically what we need to do to understand how this works, we need to run our code and see. So how do we do that? As I always do, go to this terminal, click on new terminal, and here you have to write npm start. This basically starts our React application. Okay, so let's wait for some time. So yes, our application is loading, and as you can see on my screen, it shows press the button to be greeted and the greet me message. Once I click on it, you see an alert appears on our browser saying welcome from tutorials in hand. Okay, so this is what we intended to make. So here what happens when we click on this button, an event is triggered, and that event is basically handled by that event handler. And what that event handler does, it prevents the default behavior and shows an alert message on the browser. Okay. Another way of doing the same thing is basically if you are not intending to handle the default behavior, rather show it directly, you can write like this. Here I am commenting out the event handler, and rather here I am writing like a function, arrow function directly inline, and here I will write alert, and then I will copy paste this alert message. Okay, this is also another way of writing. This method is mostly used when you have to pass any arguments to the function, and that argument basically is utilized in that function. Okay, so now if things goes right, we can see the same output on the browser. Once I click on this greet me, see, I can see the exact same message on my browser window. So the first way of doing by basically passing an event handler method and then handling the event outside is basically the first way. Secondly, we can directly handle the event inline. Okay. Now I am closing the terminal and go to our class component. In the class component, as we have already discussed in our components video, the class component we declare by saying class, thereafter the class name, which extends from the component class within React. Okay. Thereafter again we have written the exact same event handler as we have done in our functional component example. Okay. Within the class component we have a render method which returns a React node. Within the render method we have a return method which basically returns our JSX. And here also I have written the exact same thing. Press the button to be greeted, and thereafter I have handled using this .handle button press. So now to see this output on the browser, first of all we need to bind this over here. So as you can see, I have already imported the greet CC over here. Just I have to call this component within our app. And as we are done, now let's go to our terminal and see the output. So npm start, this will bootstrap our application. Let's wait for some time. So as you can see on my screen, I have the exact same output, and if things work perfectly, when I click on this greet me button, the same output should be shown on the browser window. So as I click on it, see, it's working perfectly fine. Okay. So let's go back to our code. So my intention for this video was to familiarize you how we can handle events both in class components and in function components. Now as function components are mostly used these days, so this is the example, or you can say the most preferable method of handling events. Okay. So that's all for this video. So I hope you like this video. In case you like it, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We are going to bring up more videos in the future. For any queries, doubts, suggestions or feedbacks, feel free to post them in the comment section. We are going to reply. So thank you for now. See you in the next video. Bye.